Hello everyone and welcome to the sunny city of Valencia, known for its dedication to the arts and sciences and of course esports. DreamHack has been here since 2011 and we return for another edition of the CSGO Open, this time powered by FACEIT. We started with 8 of the best teams in the world, we whittled it down to 4, only one can win. And we've got an expert panel of analysts to talk you through it. Like you're already sniggering. I'm Richard Lewis, your host. Next to me is a UK legend. It is Henry G. And he's definitely not here because he's desperate to prolong his career at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Just here for the insight and the knowledge I can provide.
Yeah, which has been pretty good. People seem to like you for some reason.
Well, there we go.
There we are then. Okay, we'll talk to you later probably, briefly. And next to him, of course, it is the boys from FACEIT. It is Threat and DDK. How are you two doing today?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel great. Just gonna watch some awesome Counter-Strike today.
Yeah, it's going to be a super exciting day. Like I say, we've got some awesome games lined up, DDK, and you're going to be casting some later, but you are joining us on the analysis desk for now. You're not daunted by that prospect, are you?
No, absolutely not. Today's games are incredibly exciting. We have amazing semi-finals. Honestly, I just want to see the matches. These are going to be so good. So I just want to get into it. So it's kind of weird to be on the slower pace of just the analyst desk and not, screaming and shouting, but I'm looking forward to
We'll keep you on your toes, mate. Don't worry about that. Don't believe that slower pace rumour. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you a recap at home and let you know how we got here. So you can see there in Group A we had some exciting games, no doubt about it. Cloud9 got off to a great start against Kingwin, and then Virtus Pro lost to Na'Vi on Overpass. That created the real underdog story of Kingwin beating Virtus Pro, including a 16-0 on cash, which is hands down one of the most bonkers results I've ever seen. Probably in Counter-Strike in general, let alone just in CSGO. Then in the other game we had Cloud9 beat Na'Vi, which was a real surprise, 16-14. Cloud9 through straight to the semi-finals, and then Na'Vi got into a real barn burner, I guess, against Kingwin, able to come through in 3 maps. On the other side, you can see there that we had Fnatic versus Team Liquid, easy for them, and then NiP versus TSM Kingwin. TSM were able to defeat those to put through a great game against Fnatic. Fnatic showing a lot of emotion when they lost that one. Team Liquid versus NiP. As expected, the North Americans fell to the Swedes, set up the new El Clasico, if you like, Fnatic versus NIP. A great game, 2 maps, but 16-14 in both of them. One of the games of the day. Fnatic, of course, victorious, NiP going home. So just some thoughts about those games, guys. I mean, it's been an amazing tournament. Any prevailing memories from what we saw?
The standout memory for me was Virtus Pro going out in the fashion they did. The 16-0 we mentioned. Just to touch on Kingwin as well, a lot of people wrote them off before they even arrived at this tournament, but I think the underdog story prevailed here. Like the day 1 for them was completely night and day compared to how they arrived on day 2. They kind of changed their formation. Makaleli was on the AWP, and they just went absolutely ham. It was really impressive to see them actually step into the arena and actually prove themselves as one of the top contender in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, anything to add to that, Bjorn?
Yeah, well, I completely agree. The cash game Virtus Pro Kingwin, 16-0. I mean, I've been watching CS for maybe 10 years, and I think I've only seen 16-0 2 or 3 times. And the past times, I think it's always been on the old 1.6 train where you could get 15-0 as CT. I would never believe I was going to see it on CT cash versus a team like Virtus Pro. Yeah.
Dan, what was your memories?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very cool to see Kingwin. I mean, they've been changing a lot of stuff, and of course, they came in for Envious kind of exploding, and they seem to just be battering any team who has any kind of dissent or basically weakness, let's say, from like an emotional perspective. If there's something going on that's wrong inside the team, and let's say their players going rogue, Kingwin are so good at just punishing that. They proved that here, and I'm sure I think they've got a long way to go, but it was very exciting. They created really exciting matches.
So we can bring up the bracket. This is what we got for you today now, and I'm telling you, this is just shows how stacked the tournament was, really, that these are the semis. Tantalizing prospects there. You can see our first game, which is going to be starting at 2 local time. TSM versus Na'Vi. Again, Na'Vi coming from the Electronic Sports World Cup, a premier esports event, which they won. And they're going up against a team that have a real argument to be the world's #1. They have a great record against Fnatic. And then, of course, we've got the plucky North Americans, Cloud9. People have got to sit up and start taking those guys seriously now. You know, Fnatic themselves, in an interview, Krim said they're a tier 1 team. There's no doubt about it. And they're going up against the world #1 in the form of Fnatic. So, and that's going to be at about 5:30 of the results prevailing. So the first game we are going to bring you is TSM Kingwin. Again, well, I'll start picking your brains. We are going to talk about this a bit more extensively, but I'll just get a few thoughts about this semi-final and what it means in the grander context of the CSGO landscape.
Sure. So if you look at the results previously between Navi and TSM, the last 12 results, I think, has ended in TSM winning 64% of those.
Yeah.
And there we go. So the maps we've seen with them is between Overpass, Inferno, and Mirage. Navi seem to have the advantage on Inferno and Mirage, where both Overpass matches going towards TSM. So I think the veto will be quite clear. If TSM play that cleverly, they can get rid of Inferno, get rid of Mirage, try and force Overpass into there. But you kind of have to favour TSM in this series, I think. It's going to be quite an interesting one, but I think it will go the distance, 2-1, perhaps.
Well, statistically, Henry's right. It is a 64% win rate, but of course, this is a TSM coming off the back of a break, coming off the back of some disappointing results. CSL ESEA Pro League, where they went out in the groups, kind of springs to mind. Do you think it's as cut and dry for TSM as Henry's saying?
No, I think it's going to be a really close game. And I mean, we have the top 3 teams in the world: Navi, TSM, and Fnatic. And Fnatic seems to be able to beat Fnatic. TSM is able to beat Fnatic.
Yeah.
Navi is able to beat TSM.
Yeah.
And it's just a like 3-way tie between those teams. So it's completely 50-50 for me. I'm going to favor TSM slightly.
Yeah, I have to also favor TSM slightly as well, considering Navi's shakiness yesterday. Of course, Zeus did seem a little bit easy to roll, and that did have an impact on the team overall. But again, it was so weird with the Kingdom dynamic. I don't know if we can take it too far, but equally, I don't think we can take TSM's last early exit too far either. I mean, that was definitely a format that didn't, favor them. They lost 2 best of ones, one against Fnatic, and then they were gone. So I don't think they were too unhappy about that, overall. So I would expect TSM to come in here pretty strong, looking to prove themselves, and they have had a lot of time to prepare for Navi as well.
Well, we'll come to that in a second, but what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce the rest of our team, because it's not just here and the casters on the other stage. Of course, we've got some beauty and brains, and I'm real psyched to introduce you to somebody new to the CSGO family, because beauty and brains, I'm not just talking about James Duffield, although he is on the stage, but you're going to meet Smix, incredibly talented host and interviewer who's been doing all sorts of stuff in StarCraft, and she's making a debut in CSGO. You're going to get to go meet her now. Let's go to the stage.
Thank you very much, Richard Lewis. I am honored to be here in Valencia, Spain. And of course, James, great to be here with you as well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastically. We've had 2 great days of CS already, and now we've got like a whole day of the semi-finals and the finals. It's going to be great. And look at this crowd. We have a huge crowd of people already.
Exactly. This crowd here in Valencia has been absolutely amazing. And I'm sure you guys are excited as I am. It is time, everybody. Welcome to the Final Four show. It is time, Valencia, to welcome the 2 teams for our first match of the day. Give it up for TSM and Navi.
Let's make loads of noise for the first player of TSM. It is their primary AWP device. Next up, one of the best riflers in the world. It is Dupree. And next up, their in-game leader, Carrigan. And the support of the team, probably one of the most consistent players in the world, it's ZipX. And then Cajun B, their secondary AWP and entry fragger.
And of course, from Na'Vi, our first player is a young gun, the newest addition to the team. It is Flamey. And next up, we have Captain Ahab. He's the pistol master, Edward. And of course, we have our in-game leader of Na'Vi, Zeus. This player is one of the best offers in the world. It is Guardian. And last but not least, he has the highest KDA at this tournament so far. Give it up for Seized. It is time, guys, to hear some words from players of these two teams. Let's head over to James on the main stage.
Thank you very much, Schmix. I am here with two of the players. Firstly, how are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? You've had a break yesterday, haven't you? You've had a break and you've kind of had time to relax. What's the thoughts in the team?
Well, it's really great right now. We just had time to do whatever we wanted yesterday. We actually wanted to go to the beach, but we ended up being too lazy to do that. So we just ended up, we went to the spa in the hotel and just relaxed and started preparing for the game today. Had you been keeping an eye on the games as well? Have you watched them all back and to prepare a little bit? Yeah, of course. We watched pretty much all the games just to see how people played and prepare, so yeah. And Guardian yourself, you guys had a little bit of a rockier road. You were here yesterday having to play 3 games as well. How are you guys feeling? Do you feel like that makes you more warmed up than TSM?
Well, it's always hard to play them because they're probably the top 2 team and probably the best one after Fnatic, so it will be a hard game, but yeah, we always struggle in group stage, so yeah, now it's playoffs, it's everything from start, so yeah, we'll see.
Okay, and I just want to ask a question to both of you. Who on Na'Vi is the biggest threat to TSM? Guardian, and who is the biggest threat for you guys?
I would say it's everybody from them.
Oh. Everybody's a threat. Okay, great. I want you guys to both shake hands, go back to your teams, and I'm going to hand over to Richard for a more in-depth analysis of this upcoming game on the analysis desk.
So yeah, great to see some healthy respect there from 2 great teams. Guardian, an absolute legend in the game. He's been a legend, 1.6. He's been a legend in CSS, and now he's been a legend in CSGO, the #1 AWPer in the world. So really psyched to see how this goes. Now, my gut feeling here is that TSM are probably going to play a bit more loose to what we're used to. They're coming in without having really had a lot of time to sort of get the new strats that they want to put in. They're kind of just playing on instinct almost, whereas Na'Vi have been so well drilled lately and been able to prepare specifically for each opponent, and I don't think we're going to see anything different here, and that's kind of what makes this so intriguing. TSM probably have more talent on the roster, but Na'Vi are like a well-oiled machine at the moment.
I think you're right there. I think it would be a good idea for TSM to play a bit looser. We saw Kingwin play against Na'Vi yesterday, and you normally expect Na'Vi to run over teams on Inferno, but they actually looked kind of scared against Kingwin. They couldn't really play and adapt to the loose play style. Yeah. So it kind of works in the benefit of TSM. They're coming in with lack of practice here. We know they've been a bit shaky recently. They kind of haven't been able to practice as much as they'd like. So I think, yeah, that's going to be a benefit to them ultimately. If they can play a looser play style and kind of dissect Na'Vi a little bit, step by step. Well,
I'll get your thoughts about TSM just while we're showing you a movie that, of course, we recorded, where you get to see the players kind of, I don't know, larking about, I guess would be the way to describe it. But they've been such a great together team, especially since Carrigan came in. He's really helped galvanize that particular roster, and a lot of young players there. I love this segment in particular, guys, like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah, water. Yeah. But I mean, Cajun B as well. This is a player who famously used to kind of swap between rosters all the time. He never seemed to be nailed down.
Yeah.
And Carrigan's made him stay in the game and stay focused, which is
that's it.
a hell of an achievement.
We were asked before this game to like name our #1 player, the most impactful player from the teams. Like, in terms of like fragging, I'd say probably like Cajun B, the most explosive player, but my favorite player would be Carrigan. I think he's done an amazing job getting this team together, sticking the roster, making them a really solid unit and contending for that #1 spot in Europe.
And what about you, Threat? Who do you think's the kind of difference maker for TSM there?
I'm actually going to say Cajun B. I think maybe Carrigan is more important for the team, but Cajun B is a player that can be really explosive, but some games he really doesn't show up. So if he shows up in this game, I think it's going to be what decides who's going to win this game.
Dan?
Yeah, for me, actually, I would say Carrigan as well, because Carrigan is a great player to take pressure off of Device. When we saw him join the lineup, he actually provided that. He took Device off of the open many different spots, which allowed Device, especially on CT, to do a lot better. And also, he's just very strong a leader. And in the previous games against Na'Vi, Carrigan was by far the top fragger for TSM.
And of course, you can see Cajun B there on screen. He's been in a great run of form lately, really dropping bombs. But what's been incredible is, you know, just the consistency that he's managed to achieve. Like, for me, I think he's playing some of the best CS he's ever played.
Yep.
He was always a danger man. Like, he was always dangerous when he was in Source. But the thing was, he was wildly inconsistent. You never knew which Cajun B was going to turn up. Now you know which one's going to turn up, and he's going to wreck you every time.
One thing to note about this whole setting is that, like we said, TSM didn't actually have to play yesterday, so they get to watch and dissect Na'Vi quite a lot. You get to see on a range of maps. So, like, now we're on the big stage. Like, do we think that's going to play a factor, being able to watch those games yesterday and take notes and work out what the team are doing?
So just a few thoughts here as well, just about you know, some of the other guys. There's the double D combination. You've got Device and Dupree, and one of the features of TSM that I think has really been you know, so prominent lately has been that Carrigan's given those guys the freedom to just play how they want. Under Fetish's regime, they didn't have that freedom. They had to absolutely play how he wanted them to. Now it's not uncommon to see Dupree. I'm just gonna push through a smoke. I'm just gonna run up here. I'm just gonna go really aggressive on the CT side, and it works for them. He is like such a wild card in TSM right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dupree is also probably the best player in the world at playing CT on overpass. He can always play aggressive on that A side towards long and in the toilets area, and he always gets 2 or 3 kills. It's just an excellent trader.
Yeah, overpass is probably a very likely map as well. He plays very, very well every time we see him against Na'Vi. And one cool thing about TSM, worth remembering, is that if you look at them as a lineup, the thing that is fearful is that individually, player for player, they pack a very mighty punch. And that's actually how Kinguin were able to do so well, is that individually they're really amazing. I almost feel like TSM, like a leveled up version of Kinguin, insofar as they have the strategy, they have really good in-game leadership, their roles are well defined, and they're very confident. They've got the routine and the results to boot as well. So I feel like this is going to be very, very scary, because Na'Vi, they can't fall apart like they did last time. They can't go for just random angels. They have to respect that. They've got to go back to what works, which is their strategy and their tactics. Well, let's take a look at Na'Vi. Again, we've recorded another boy band style video for you to look at, and this one is glorious. But yeah, Na'Vi, as you rightly say, what I love about them is how tactical they are. And it's kind of interesting because there's a real conflict of in-game leader styles going on here between TSM and Na'Vi. You've got Carrigan, who we've talked about, who is really supportive, really puts a lot of faith in his younger players, but then we've got Zeus there. And Zeus is, in the best meaning of the word, an absolute tyrant. You do what he says, when he says, and if it isn't working and you're not doing that, a timeout's going to be called and he will chew you up. Yeah. So we've seen Zeus do this a number of times yesterday. When things weren't going well against Kinguin, he called that timeout and he absolutely read the riot act to his players. So just a few thoughts about the importance of this. Again, legend in the game, but also just a legendary captain.
Yeah, like what I like about Navi's playstyle is like they have all the great strategies as well, but they run the timeout. They make sure they dissect the map perfectly. Like they take their time. They let Guardian scope out, see what is available, and he always finds a kill as well. And that's the best thing you can have in a team. Someone who can find you an entry frag quite early on, and then they've always seem to find the best way to get in. And they get in within 10 seconds remaining. You think there's no chance to get a bomb down, but it always pulls off. It's a really exciting playstyle to watch, and it's one of my favorites. I think it works perfectly for them.
And Dan, just a few thoughts about about Guardian. Henry dropped his name there. He is, for me, the best AWPer in the world. He was the best AWPer in the world in Source, an incredible AWPer in 1.6. And I think what's really interesting about him is he's actually been the guy who's like, I don't really like the AWP in CSGO. But he just knuckled down and learned it, and now look where he is.
Yeah, for me, Guardian, I actually always liked Guardian over, you know, when Kenny S was in his heyday and he looked like the most amazing AWPer, and even Simple now, I've always preferred Guardian. And the reason is because Guardian can be really flashy, can be really fast, but he doesn't do it needlessly. He can play very defensively, he can play all facets of the AWP, and he's got very smart decision making with it as well. Like, he doesn't just go nuts. And sure, that can be great for your YouTube highlight clips, but Guardian is very reliable. And the other two key factors about this guy is he is a thoroughbred star player, and he understands that he has to deliver for his team for them to be lifted and that his team plays better. He understands all the pressures on him if his team wants to win a championship, and he steps up time and time again. It's like he's getting better every time we see him in finals. It's actually uncanny.
All right, and just before we go to the map veto, I just want to point one more thing out about Na'Vi, because I've been talking about this guy for so long, and people say I'm nuts and I'm mad, and he's finally done it. He's the statistically best player at this tournament, seized. For me, just an incredible, consistent player, a real difference maker for Na'Vi. I know you wanted to pick him out.
Yeah, the funny thing with Seized is when he joined Na'Vi together with Kibakan, he was actually the star player of Na'Vi, and then when they picked up Guardian, they picked up Flamey, they had a lot of lineup changes. He sort of like fell back into more of a support role. For the last few weeks, we have seen the old season. He's just amazing, and you can't really pinpoint what type of style he has in the game. He just can play any role, anytime.
Yeah, great player. So look, we can get into the map veto. This is going to be so hugely important because one of the things that Na'Vi have really done that's impressed me lately is they've got such a depth of map pool now. That's what's took them from being a good team to an elite team. And TSM, of course, with just raw talent on the roster, always competitive on any map. So let's have a look at the veto and see how it went down. And I think we can see it at the bottom. We are going to get that up any second now, but there we go. We're into it. So, looks like Na'Vi banned out Cash first. TSM removed Cobblestone, probably sensible. Then you go across to the first pick, which was Na'Vi on Mirage. Then TSM picked Train.
Interesting.
Yeah, a little bit of a surprise there. You can see the other bans that came in, Inferno and Overpass. Interesting that Na'Vi have been playing well on Inferno. In fact, they had an overtime loss to TSM at a frag bite recently, but they seem to be struggling on it a little bit. So it's going to be a Dust 2 decider, and that is a ridiculous prospect because you've got the aim of TSM, you've got guys like Device and Debris just running around going absolutely ham, but Dust 2 is Guardian's playground.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see Train from TSM. Them picking Train means that they probably have practiced it a lot during their off time now, which probably means that we're going to see some awesome executes. Hopefully we can see some new style as well on the T side.
But Na'Vi are no slouches on Train at all, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen them go toe-to-toe with Fnatic there. And the funny thing is that it was a Fnatic that can roll over you. They don't have to play the map correctly because they're Fnatic. Na'Vi had the reputation, rightly so. Strategically, tactically, they were ahead of every other team. They were basically the best Train team. So exactly as Bjorn's saying here, for TSM to actually pick Train into Na'Vi shows that they must have done their homework, or specifically they've been looking at demos and like, okay, this makes sense because we have done our homework. And that's the only thing I can think of. That's really exciting.
Yeah, no, it shows that for all the talk we've had about them maybe coming into this tournament a little bit unprepared, they've probably still got some aces up their sleeve, which I'm really looking forward to seeing how well they can do on that map.
I really hope this goes a distance. I'd love to see Dust 2 as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, we talk about Guardian being such a big stage player, and if he can get on Dust 2, like, it's going to be such an amazing spectacle to watch. I really favour him on CT. I think we've mentioned it before. I think he's one of the best CT AWPers in the world. Like, he is hybrid, but I think when he can hold the angles, he plays the AWP correctly, and Dust 2 is one of these absolute pinnacally. So that's going to be amazing. I really do hope it goes to 3.
So let's start nailing it down to predictions. I'll start with you, Dan. How do we see this one going?
Oh my god. Okay, I actually think this is gonna go 2-1 to TSM. I actually think that we should see. I'm expecting Na'Vi to have a strong start. I think they'll take Mirage, but I think TSM are gonna put it through on Train and Dust. It's so hard to call Dust 2. It's actually impossible. Yeah. This is the 2-1 either way. I think this will go the distance. I think it's gonna be very tight.
Bjorn?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's gonna be 2-1 either way, but I have to slightly favor TSM. It depends on how well they're going to play Train.
Okay, and Henry?
I've said before this is going to be 2-0 to TSM, but looking at the maps, I really do think it's going to go to a third, and I think I'm going to say 2-1 in favour of TSM.
I'm thinking Na'Vi 2-1, you know.
Really?
I'm feeling it. I don't know what it is. You can laugh at me later. Anyway, boys, thanks a lot for all your thoughts. We're now going to throw over to a casting trio of incredible talent as befitting a game of this stature. We've got Anders, we've got Semler, and we've got Fifth Lauren. Take it away, boys.